Hello, everyone. It's 2025 proper. It's live. I can see you in the chat to prove it. The first person in the chat was Michael C. about 10 minutes ago. Hello, Michael. I did see you in there. Hello, everyone. It's a classic page turn, in fact, tonight. This is, without further, I want to make sure I'm going to focus very much on the paper. I want to go through the paper. So there's no news today. Well, actually, that's not quite true. We've got a little segment from Michael C. Spoiler alert, which we'll go through in a minute. But first of all, before we crack into the episode, I want to say last episode, minor technical difficulties because for some reason my render decided to offset all the pictures by one. So all the slide images were the wrong ones for the wrong slot. It was very annoying. I might re-render it and make it a patron exclusive or something. I don't know. It's quite aggravating when I spotted it, but I should have looked at the. I ran through the render. I ran through it. It was fine before I rendered it, and it's something clearly gone wrong, and I don't know why. But anyway, the audio only, folks. It's fine. Anyway, this is episode 246, a page turn through the English devolution white paper. That's what we're doing tonight. We're going through the English devolution white paper, which was released at the back end of last year, without much fanfare, frankly. Now, back in episode 105 of Rail Natter, so quite a number of episodes ago, 140 or so episodes ago, we had Jon Stone on. Might have been the last time Jon was on, actually. We should get Jon on again. Friend of the show, friend of me. The UK must decentralise power to make public transport better is what we were talking about, and we kind of made the point, the critical point, as we've made before, more broadly, and as we've made often since, that without decentralising power, particularly to cities, we will just simply not get better public transport in the UK. It's as simple as that. And to an extent, that's true within the devolved countries, so within Wales and Scotland as well. And but it's certainly the case for England that it needs to see, large-scale federalisation, but also it needs to see devolution to cities. And that devolution is not just the word devolution, it's deep and meaningful, critically including the devolution of funding powers, the ability to spend money without having to go and ask Treasury on a project-by-project or an investment-by-investment basis. And we're going to see what that looks like in this white paper. I'm looking forward to having to go through. So without further ado, let's understand whether this is the right thing, whether the paper is up to scratch, and whether it's going to give us what we need to do. Everyone, welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. And as the Institute 225 fades away, we're going to start with a pertinent little story. Hello, everyone in the chat, by the way. Hello, Katie. You and I, we need to have a chat. I don't know why I did that in such an ominous voice. Katie, there's an upcoming episode for which I may be interested in your help and support and possible attendance if you fancy it. That's right, I organise episodes in episode. So, everyone, yes, before we start, it's kind of pertinent and relevant, actually. Michael C., big shout out for you getting this over in time. You didn't have to, but it was great that you did. We're going to talk. There's a little bit of news. In fact, and you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I am simply going to let Michael C. do the talking. So I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let Michael C. take it away, and I'm going to pay very close attention to the levels.
On the 15th of December 2024, the Northumberland line opened, adding 18 miles of track to the passenger network, along with 2 new stations at Ashington and Seaton Delaval. Further openings are expected at Newsham in February, as well as at Bedlington, Blythe Bebbside and Northumberland Park at an unspecified date later this year. Both the new stations at Ashington and Seaton Delaval are fairly similar. Starting at Seaton Delaval, there's an entrance on the main road, which leads down a street and cycle path to a large car park or a cycle storage area respectively. Moving through to the platform, and it's pretty basic, with a single cashless ticket machine serving a single platform with a lonely waiting shelter. The situation isn't that much different to Ashington. It's located right in the middle of town, and there's traces of the original station in the form of an abandoned platform. Today's modern station, however, sits in a siding just off the main line so as to not disrupt the freight services too much. This station also has a single cashless ticket machine and a decent-sized waiting shelter. As expected, there's also a cycle storage area and a large car park. Overall, a pretty minimal station. I'm not going to say it's bad, as there are plenty of worse stations out there, but it definitely doesn't feel worthy of a town with a nearly 30,000 population either. Other noteworthy features of the line are that all signage seems to be using Rail Alphabet 2, and that it's been integrated with Newcastle's pop card system through the creation of a new Zone D, with card scanners found at all the new stations. Fares are set low, with a maximum peak time fare of £3 one way, meaning that off-peak it actually ends up being cheaper than the buses. The line itself sees a half-hourly service, with a journey from Ashington to Newcastle taking about 35 minutes. Whilst riding the train, it's possible to see the as-yet unopened stations out of the window. These seem to follow the same basic design of platforms, shelters, car parks, and not much else, though they are at least more interesting than the stations opened thus far, as most of them have 2 platforms rather than just 1. Whilst the stations are dull, it's not my biggest criticism of the line, which has to go to the lack of electrification, as half-hourly passenger services, combined with regular freight trains, means it more than meets the criteria. But with that said, I don't want to sound too negative, as it's undeniably a good thing that the line's been opened, and I'm sure it'll make a big difference to the way people travel around in the North East. Usual plugs. I have a more detailed full-length video about the Northumberland line over on my main channel, Michael C, and I now also have a second channel, Network News, dedicated to covering news stories. Back to you, Gareth.
Thanks, Michael. That's terrific. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to briefly go over to bring my large face up to say an actual hello. Michael, that was fab. Thanks so much. A couple of things watching that reflections I've already got on the line, which are the awful Spartan news stations. They're dismal. Where's Hub Station? Why is Hub Station? Why has it not been rolled out? Well, I know one of the reasons. One of the reasons is that the line has been battered within an inch of its life by Andrew Gilligan in its development. It's taken a very long time to roll out for various reasons. A lot of them about smoothing fund, but also just lots of engineering issues that have come up, and that because of the lack of let's get this done that we have when it comes to capital projects in the UK, particularly with railways, that slowed things down. And actually it kind of, the station designs predated Hub Station, but it's really sad to see a load of stations opening that don't use Hub Station. And the other thing about the stations is they just, it's just not a reflection on the design and project teams, because they build to what they're allowed to build, but the integration into town is not necessarily great, and they are. Oh. And yes, Michael C, you're absolutely right. Electrification, it seems strange that it's not been electrified, given that it has freight. It's just absolutely right for it. The frequency of service half hourly is, going to increase, particularly if it gets better incorporated into the Tyne Metro system. I don't know. I'm given these things. I don't believe in be happy for what you've been given and be glad that the line has been opened. Isn't that wonderful? I'm conscious of the fact that the far better thing for the public purse actually is for us to spend the time that we have on the railway before it's opened building the proper railway passenger kind of experience and building a railway system that works. Other thoughts, though, which are more pertinent to this conversation, because I don't dwell on this, and frankly, Katie, this isn't what I'm going to be talking to you about. Jen on the move. I want to get Jen on the move on the show to talk about this, because Jen has some strong feelings, and I want to share. The two of us can knock our heads together and be disappointed in this. And again, it's not particularly at the project itself, but at the broader, why do we deliver stuff like this in the UK, in GB certainly picture. So the other thing I want to talk about while I bring my little face up in the corner is Michael C very pertinently spotted that they're using Rail Alphabet 2. If it's within a, yes, it's the stations are, and the trains are currently run by Northern, sure, but they're not an extension of a service going in the different. Correct me if I'm wrong on this one. They're not an extension. They just run and terminate in Newcastle Central. Is that right? Everyone can correct me on this. Is that correct? Is that right? Yeah, is that correct? I'm. In any case, I would have hoped that we would. Firstly, I think that there's something very Spartan about the medium weight rail alphabet 2. I have to say, I let me just do a thing that shows you what I might myself. I think I really do think it's better with the bold, but maybe that's just me. I think emulating the bold, and actually the other thing to do is more spacing, condensed by 1 point. There we go. Yeah, there we go. I do think that's better actually, but so even if we go for a more traditional rail alphabet style rail alphabet 2, I think these stations should be branded. If not Tyne and Wear, if not the Metro branding, because to be fair, that is specifically for the Tyne and Wear Metro. I think this should have been branded with Calvert, and just as I strongly disagree with rebranding any of the stations within the West Midlands area, I think the West Midlands branding is actually terrific. The urban, the inner urban and outer urban branding on those lines is terrific. I think the same for Tyne and Wear Metro, particularly Calvert, and I would hope to see lines that are reasonably well focused within the Tyne and Wear Metro area. And actually, you could roll this out beyond to the broader combined authority, even though that covers a huge area. Calvert's a terrific font. It looks great, and it's very distinctive, and I think it should have been branded this way. But I'm interested to know what people think about this. The 158s do operate across several routes. Yes, Michael C., I agree. I think eventually that it would be good to have dedicated, particularly if you electrified it. I think it would just look, and this is kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight, because one of the things we've got to talk about is devolution and the control that cities have over their funding for creating these systems. Because if Tyne and Wear, if the combined authority, what is it, north of Tyne or whatever it is now, I think it's now the northeast combined authority. It's been jiggling around a bit. If they'd been funded to do that line themselves, then it probably would have been branded as some hybrid of. I think there is a rail version of the Calvert. I think, is it purple or something, or is that buses? There is a version of the Calvert branding for rail. Rather than Northeast Combined Authority. Thanks, Nucker. Anyway, so this is a project that should have been delivered by the Combined Authority, in theory, rather than Network Rail, or at least Network Rail would have been the client would not have been, the client would have been the Combined Authority rather than the Combined Authority merely being a stakeholder. The Combined Authority would ideally also, of course, would build up its own in-house skills to actually develop and deliver these projects. So let's see. Without further ado, we're going to see what the government is talking about with its devolution white paper. Let's understand. I'm not going to. There's loads of extra context to this, including like the mess that is devolution. We've talked about this I think on the Institute for Government. What's it? Oh, we've used some of their information actually. There's an Institute for Government devolution map that I think we've referred to. That Jon Stone episode is really good. I'm not going to dwell on that because I just want to get into the document, to be honest. So I think it's time for us to get this document open and flick through. So English devolution white paper. I've got my mouse up. Let's get cracking. So this was published in December 2024 by the now renamed. It's no longer DLUC. It's now Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. So it's MHCLG. It's a ministry, not a department. Is this a re-emerging fashion to take us back to ministries? We turned everything into a department for we want to be America, Tony Blair reasons, although it slightly predates Tony Blair. And then we seem to be going back now to ministries because it's now become a ministry. There is no discernible difference between a ministry and a department other than legacy naming conventions. Anyway, so this is Power and Partnership Foundations for Growth, NAF subtitle, but it's the English devolution white paper. I like a simply named thing, and it does what it says on the tin. So hello mouse cursor. Yeah, let's get cracking. I'll do my best not to flick through, but if you are photosensitive, beware, I might inadvertently flick through a few pages, so if that's going to be a problem. Do what you need to do. I'm sure you have your strategies. If I'm going to flick at high speed over a number of pages, I'll let you know. If there's going to be lots of flashing, I'll try and remember to let you all know before that. As ever, we're going to skip the forwards and skip the executive summary because we don't. Well, I always scan them to see. But before we do that, let's just have a look at the structure. So, firstly, let's have a look at the number of pages. We've got 140 14 pages worth of report. We're not going to go through this we're not going to go through page by page, as in we're not going to read every page, of course, but we are going to we're going to pick out what we can in terms of key information. It might be that we perhaps, well, there isn't really maybe we are going to look at the executive summary if it has bullet points. There don't seem to be a key points thing anyway, so okay, fine. So there's the forward by the Deputy Prime Minister, not the Prime Minister, which instantly annoys me because this is absolutely critical, important stuff that the Prime Minister should be putting their name against. Minister of State the SOS puts their name against it, fine. No, sorry, not the Secretary of State, the Minister of State for a segment of the overall picture, so for the local government and English devolution bit, which is Jim McMahon. And then we've got, what is this, 6 sections. We've got the first section, which is facing the future. We can skip through this rubbish because it's just like, hooray, wouldn't this be wonderful? Section 2 is how we will deliver this. So it's the architecture of devolution, which is really important because at the moment it's a shambles. They call them strategic authorities, so we're going to come down and understand what those are. Widening and deepening devolution, so geography, governance structures, approach to filling the map, which I'm interested to look at that. Deepening devolution in the established mayoral, so they're getting rid of the words combined and they're changing to strategic authorities. Okay, fine. And London, strengthen the capital's devolution settlement. Okay, good. I'm glad London's been acknowledged within this because they've had their devolution watered down quite a bit over the last sort of 5 years or so, more actually. Hardwiring English devolution into government, so understanding what this is going to look like, going down through data, fine, whatever. Policy making with devolution by default. Okay, engagement. Well, that's all funding I'm looking for. So, powers, functions, and funding, the devolution framework. So this is section 3. This is going to be the key one. Is understanding what this looks like. Understanding what this looks like for transport, local infrastructure. That's good. Skills, housing. Yeah. We'll go through each of those in turn for sure. Number 4, delivering devolution at every scale. So, understanding what this means for local government as well, councils. Number 5, upgrading the systems. Okay. Building capacity, very important, because all the stuff about planning problems, pretty much all of them bottle down to we don't have the capacity in our planning offices and councils that we did in the before the 90s. So that's pretty much, you fix that and you will resolve 80% of your planning challenge problems in terms of how that being one of the bottlenecks to delivering stuff in the country. Delivering our plans. So then and then the last section 6 goes through how are we going to deliver all this stuff? Okay, so the English devolution bill, upgrading powers and mayors, such and such. Okay, fine. So there's a forward by Angela Rayner there. Thank you, Angela Rayner, Right Honourable Angela Rayner MP, who is the Deputy Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Oh, that's why the Deputy Prime Minister has gone there, because she's not in Deputy Prime Minister mode. She's actually this SOS for this department. Okay, fair enough. And then Jim, I presume, Jim has a little forward as well. There's a cheeky little Jim there. Okay, fine. Okay, fine, lovely. So they keep using this repair the foundations thing. This seems to be the buzzword at the moment. I don't know whether this is a milestone, a target, an aim, a mission. I've lost track, but it would be nice to see Starmer give a little forward, because this is one of the absolutely key things to everything else working. So anyway, and there's an executive summary here which does have Keir Starmer's picture in it, along with a lot of other people. Fine. Anyway, right. So the executive summary is here. Let's just read the messages, the key messages for things they think are the key points. So, widening devolution across England, fine. So universal coverage in England of strategic authorities. Okay, let's have a look at what that looks like. That'll be good. Devolution by default, whatever that means. Well, this is the important bit. It'll end the deals-based approach. Devolution policy is currently ad hoc and inconsistent. Absolutely correct. It's unclear to places what they can access, when they can access it, and under what conditions. Government will put a framework into legislation setting out the powers that go with each type of authority. The framework is a floor on our ambition, not a ceiling. Over time, we expect it to be added to and enhanced. The framework will be clear and easy to follow and will enable mayors to drive growth and the public to hold them account. Okay. The most far-reaching and flexible powers will be from mayoral strategic authorities. Okay. Unprecedented powers and budgets for mayor. Well, you'll notice that funding, where's the money, is going to be the key question throughout all of this. So that's the question to keep asking. Where's the money? So, getting things done in mayoral areas, okay, fine. Because unanimity amongst constituent councils is sometimes needed, deploying a veto can be a political device and not in the best interest of getting houses built or growing the economy. So move mayoral strategic authorities to simple majority voting, including the mayor's vote wherever possible. Okay, that seems fair. It'll help with Bristol, certainly. An integrated settlement to fund local priorities. Okay. Mayors across England in receipt of government funding already have plans to deliver for their place, but that government funding comes with conditions, reporting requirements, forms to fill in, and boxes to take. Mayors have to slalom between pots of money to deliver the answer they already know is right. The integrated settlement would change that, starting with Manchester, Liverpool, the North East, South Yorkshire, West Midlands and West Yorkshire receiving a consolidated budget across housing regeneration, local growth, local transport skills, retrofit and employment support. Local transport. Okay, so there's our mention for transport. This will enable strategic authorities to move funding between policy areas. It will lead to a better value for money and outcomes for citizens. Because in practice, these programs should not operate in departmental silos. Agreed. That's a strong agreement with that. New housing developments often depend on transport links, and supporting people back into work often requires help and develop skill. Yeah, absolutely. It's good to deal with that. So, right. This is. And I know the detail is going to be it's going to be outside the executive summary, but what they put in the executive summary in this case is actually kind of interesting and key. Integrated settlements will reform the way strategic authorities account to government for the funding they get. It will move away from the current complex fragmented departmental monitoring and reporting requirements to a single mutually agreed outcomes framework monitored over a spending review period. Too many, still feels like a lot of strings here. I'm going to be honest with you. It should be up to the combined authority and the strategic authority to be happy that they're delivering. They should just have a no strings attached amount of money that they get, and if they screw it up, then so be it. They've wasted that money. But they shouldn't even. Yeah, I'm wary of this. Is it muted? The lights just go up a bit in here. Anyway, transport. Okay, let's see. Since devolution in 1999, London is widely seen to have been one of the best integrated transport systems in the world. Okay, good. Manchester's getting there. Fine. Government will be more ambitious still in three ways. They're going to accelerate the ability to take buses back into public control. Good. Mayors will be given a statutory role in governing, managing, planning and developing the rail network. Okay. In addition to partnerships with GBR, mayors of established mayoral strategic authorities will have a clear right to request greater devolution of services, infrastructure and station control where it would support a more integrated network. Okay. To request that. Okay. It's still Weasley, but okay. Coordinating their road network is also fine, particularly if they get to do things like congestion charging, fining people who speed, fining people who break other traffic rules, fining people who do pavement parking, and letting mayoral authorities or whatever it is, strategic authorities, devolved authorities, put bus lanes in and change road, close roads, do all these sorts of things. They should be devolved. They shouldn't need to go to the DFT for this sort of thing. So, yeah, so that's key. And there's stuff on skills and employment support. I'm not going into the details on that. Fine, housing and planning. Again, I won't go into the details of that, not because it's not a policy domain I'm interested in or have knowledge of or critically think is important, but likewise, environment and climate change. I'm conscious of time, and we're going to focus on the transport stuff because it unlocks everything else. But also, it's a bit of a canary in the coal mine on the other things as well. People can pick out and come back to me if they think there are things in the other sections that are important. But I'm gonna broadly focus on transport, of course, because that's what we know. Yes. Gareth makes a good point in the chat. London's wonderful integrated public transport has little to do with devolution. I think it's more to do with the fact that the tube wasn't privatised and buses not deregulated. Well, the tube was privatised for a bit, and then it collapsed in itself with such a shambles that it had to get unprivatised again. Right, so hardwiring devolution. There's a mixed picture. I think devolution did help quite a lot. It was but it's more about what was happening at the abolishment of the GLC didn't help, and then that was a bit of a mess, and then that was kind of reinstated again when London got its devolution powers in the mid-90s. Anyway, so what I do want to say is, okay, fine. So there's reorganisation of local governments, fine. Local government taking back control, okay. Is this funding? Reset relationship with local government. Okay, I don't know if anything needs reset. This reset word seems to be getting used a lot at the moment by this government. To give the sector more autonomy and put councils on the road to recovery. Okay, fine, but are they being funded? Multi-year settlements. Okay, good. Updating the way we provide local government, end micromanagement, move to more medium. Okay. Okay, so the next steps then are going to be, they're going to describe widening within what they can do, sort of within the existing powers, deepening devolution, increasing the number of mayoral strategic authorities recommended to give settlements to 6, considering how to apply it to London. Good. Ideally, they would normalise London to be about the same as the other places. Even if their numbers are bigger, they should kind of just do the same that they do for London elsewhere and vice versa. Devolution framework. Okay, fine. Okay, local government organisation, fine. And then the English devolution bill, which will be introduced in the first session, subject to parliamentary time, putting the devolution framework into statute and moving to a systematic approach that ensures local leaders have the powers they need. Okay, fine. So we can kind of skip through section 1, facing the future, which I'm going to do in a sec. So yes, fine. So let's just jump through this stuff because we kind of know the broad picture stuff. There is some stuff in trust in politics failing. In the book, I talk about this, by the way. I talk about devolution. I talk about the relationship between people and politics and the fact that the lack of devolution, particularly in the UK, is a key factor in that. So I'm glad they've mentioned it. Not the only factor, I'll be honest, but it's a key factor. It's a key factor. So our priorities for devolution in England. All of England should benefit from devolution. Yep, fine. Okay. More directly elected mayors. Okay, fine. Powers in the right places. Yes. Someone's been reading my book. Fine. Yes. Hyperlocal issues. Communities should be empowered to make change happen. Absolutely fine. Although this looks a bit third sector, but whatever. Okay. And right, so okay, section 2, how we will deliver devolution in England. So the strategic authorities, there we are. So this is the new architecture. There's a strategic authority. We'll create in law the concept of a strategic authority. These will belong to one of the following levels. Foundation strategic authorities. These include non-mayoral combined authorities and combined county authorities automatically, and any local authority designated as strategic authority without a mayor. Okay, fine. Mayoral strategic authorities. That's the GLA. That's the Greater London Authority, which took over. It kind of came back and basically picked up where the GLC left off. All mayoral combined authorities, all mayoral combined county authorities will automatically be known as mayoral strategic authorities. Those who meet specified eligibility criteria may be designated as established mayoral strategic authorities. This unlocks further devolution, most notably an integrated settlement. Okay, so I suppose this is them saying that you've got to have kind of been a bit tested as a functional authority before you get the settlement, which, okay, fair enough. I really should have got some water nearby. That was an error. Anyway, I always do this, don't I? The government's strong preferences for partnerships that bring more than one local authority together over a large geography. Okay. In exceptional circumstances, the SOS will have the power to designate an individual local authority as a foundation strategic authority only. Our ambition remains for all parts of England to ultimately have a mayoral and eventually established mayoral strategic authority. So everyone gets a mayor. God, if only a podcast had just recently decided to pivot towards, or a new podcast had arrived to talk about mayors, because there's going to be an unending supply of them. We will legislate to ensure that strategic authorities can change structure should a local government reorganisation take place. For example, changing from a combined county authority to combined authority. Okay, so lots of stuff about the architecture, fine. Stuff about what their areas of competence will be. Statutory devolution framework. So this puts into legislation the statutory functions and government's arrangements for each level of strategic authority. Well, there's two, foundation and mayoral. They're the two, aren't there? So there's not that many. Okay. We also want to introduce a more consistent, transparent, effective set of voting arrangements. When residents elect a mayor, they need to know that key decisions cannot be blocked by a single council and that decisions will be taken that drive long-term economic growth. Mayors will always be expected to work in partnership with local authorities and key stakeholders, but a desire for perfect consensus must not get in the way of tough decisions. To enable this, when the framework becomes law, it will override any existing governance arrangements. Oh, fair enough, to be honest. I think wipe the slate clean. Okay, so then there's some stuff about the voting arrangements. Fine. There will be some recognition of local circumstances. Fine. Floor to ambition, not ceiling. Yeah, we said that. Okay, fine. So that's the architecture. 2.2 is widening and deepening devolution in England. We want to see all of England benefit from devolution. Okay. So some stuff about geography. Strategic authorities should be of comparable size to existing institutions. Fine. The default assumption is for them to have a combined population of 1.5 million or above, but we accept that in some places small authorities may be necessary. Economy. That makes some sense. Happy with that. Fine. Economy. Strategic authorities must cover sensible economic geographies with a particular focus on functional economic areas, reflecting current and potential travel to work patterns and local labour markets. Yep, good. Agree with that. It's likely that where travel to work areas are small and fragmented, strategic authorities will cover multiple travel to work areas. Fine. East Midlands probably a good example of that. Contiguity. Any proposed geography must be contiguous across its constituent councils, either now or with a clear plan to ensure contiguity. That's it all sticking together, by the way. That's it all being sticky. No devolution islands. Geographies must not create devolution islands by leaving areas which are too small to go it alone or which do not have natural partners. Okay. Delivery. Geographies should ensure the effective delivery of key functions. Okay, fine. Yeah. So things like spatial development strategies, local transport plans, getting Britain working plans. Okay. Yuck, to the last one. Alignment. The government will seek to promote alignment between devolution boundaries and other public sector boundaries. Yeah, that's good because you don't want like the 25th different map of different types of boundary that overlay, like, you know, police and fire commissioner boundaries, transport boundaries, electrical, all these things, blah, 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 blah. A vital element of successful devolution is the ability for local residents to engage with and hold their devolved institutions to account, and local identity plays a key role in this. Absolutely agree with that. Okay, good stuff. Governance structures. Mayors are the government's strong preference. I'm kind of glad this is being super inflated. Like that, fine. Deepest powers will only be available at mayoral level and higher. Okay. Kind of too. Yeah. Okay. We're doing mayors. Sometimes mayors good. Sometimes mayors bad. It can go either way. We'll remove the ability of strategic authorities to call mayors by another name, in common with local government councillors and UK MPs. Regardless of the ward or constituency they represent. What about mayors who are mayors for other types of mayors? What about the other mayors? Because there are so many other mayors, different types of mayors. York has a mayor, and we're not a thing. Okay, fine. Establishment of combined authorities, combined county authorities. Okay. It's not clear that these are overwriting the. Anyway, okay. It'd be nice if they did a map, wouldn't it? I mean, I suppose they don't want to pre-guess what people want their devolved space to be, I guess, I suppose. Right, fine. But the areas with two tiers of local government, before moving to a single tier, the government will establish combined county authorities, but not combined authorities. Okay, well, that's it. Oh, there's a map. Hey, the current existing one, but so they're just talking about the fact that you've got mayoral authorities, some agreement in place, and then everywhere else. So the everywhere else includes. It's funny that Plymouth aren't part of the Devon and Torbay devolution agreement. I found okay. Yeah, areas that would benefit massively from being a combined authority. For God's sake, Portsmouth, Southampton, Solent, that whole area absolutely needs to be a devolved area, city region. It's critical. I would say that where else? East Midlands, critical, absolutely. There's kind of a bit, like East Midlands is not including Leicester, like Leicester, and I find it funny that Leicester's not in the East Midlands combined authority arrangement. Yeah, and like Stoke-on-Trent, that kind of hinterland between the West Midlands and Greater Manchester it's like quite population dense still, but spread out. It is challenging to manage some of these. To be fair, like it is challenging to manage some of these. I do think Cambridgeshire and Peterborough is a bit of a weird one, but whatever. Fine. And then Borderlands kind of crosses the Scottish and English border, so I'm interested to know what they're going to do there, whether they'll just do a Northwest combined authority. Trouble is the population there is tiny. Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex. Yeah, it isn't. You can see why it's tricky, because some of these, the size of lump that they've talked about. This is why I think you have. This is why my preference for devolution settlement would be that you have regional and then city focused. So actually, because it's too much like rural and city, I think it makes sense to focus on cities, and then have. I don't know. I'm. This isn't. I don't necessarily. I'm kind of. It's not a hill I'm willing to die on, but cities are cities, and they thrive when they're treated as cities. GLA works because it's a city. Greater Manchester broadly city. West Midlands broadly city. Tees Valley, North East. Again, like, it's a bit messy. North East is too. I don't like the North East as a region like that, and likewise, like. Yeah, South Yorkshire makes some more sense. West Yorkshire makes some more sense, although again they do cover quite a diverse space. East Midlands is tricky, frankly, but North East is a particularly tricky one because that's so much very rural stuff there, along with Newcastle and the Tyne and Wear area being very dense. Anyway, it's kind of a moot point here, really. So I don't focus on the case studies here. Approach to filling the map. Okay, they're going to work collaboratively. Fine. They will legislate for a ministerial directive which will enable the government to create strategic authorities in any remaining places where local leaders in that region have not been able to agree how to access devolved powers. So they'll fill in the gaps if it's not been done already. Okay, fine. Deepening devolution. So eligibility for established mayoral status. 18 months with a directly elected mayor. It's got frameworks in place. No notices or like naughty boy, naughty step type situations. Fine. I've not been looking at the chat, by the way. Hello everyone in the chat. Yeah, do keep chucking me the Katie reckons that feels like South Yorkshire and West Yorkshire ought to be together when it comes to rail. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's quite a large area, that's the thing, Katie, and there is quite a bit of hinterland between the two. Yeah. Anyway, so right, so qualifying for established mayoral state. Okay, fine. Strengthen London's devolution settlement. Okay, interesting. To remove any. Establish the GLA Act 99 as amended to remove any unnecessary data provisions and ensure the Act is fit to support capital's continued growth. Whether changes are needed to the system governing the disposal of Transport for London operational land in the way in which transport funding is agreed for London. Okay. As we update the devolution framework, we'll work with the Greater London Authority to ensure the capital city benefits from new powers and funding being made available to other strategic authorities while retaining pre-existing bespoke London arrangements. This work will include exploring how an integrated settlement could be applied to the GLA from 26-27. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. The government remains committed to maintaining London's international competitiveness and attractiveness as a place to work, study, visit, blah, blah, blah. Government will work with the Mayor of London to compare the powers and policy approaches of our other global city authorities. That's good. Yes. Copy with pride. This will be led by a new working group sponsored jointly by MHCLG and the GLA. Okay, fine. There's Sadiq Khan grinning. Happy days. Hi, Sadiq. How you doing? Your politics are interesting to me, but not in the way that most of the people who are angry with your nasty fascists and screw those guys. But no, I think your politics are also not great, but from a different angle, let's put it that way. But fine. I'm glad it's you and not the other horror shows. Right, so hardwiring English division to government. Okay, fine. What else? Don't worry about that. What's this? Is it TFL? Yeah, it's just say, look at TFL aren't they great? Yeah, everywhere else should have a TFL. So I'm glad they're picking it out. Let's see what they're going to actually do about that, though. So, fine. Local growth plans. Yeah, whatever. East Midlands inclusive. Okay. Yeah. Engagement forums, whatever. Policy making with devolution by default. Pursue an ambition to realign public authority boundaries so that over time public services are delivered over the same areas as strategic authority boundaries. Absolutely agree with that. So, yeah. Public service boundaries include those of police, probation, fire and health services, and those strategic authorities should align. NHS, key example. Yep, absolutely. Changes to public service boundaries will be made in consultation with stakeholders and considering the impact on service delivery. So to basically bring them all into alignment. Don't change one for the other, but just make sure they all match. Fine. I think that's a very sensible, quite basic, but very sensible and good thing to do. Fine. Knucker, I do agree with the London bespoke deals is that all the other cities should have them as well. Yeah, absolutely agree. We should be rolling anything that London gets to the other cities as well. I do agree with that, Knucker, because, Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, these are cities that should be equally powerful. Of course, much is devolved to Scotland in terms of Glasgow, but, Glasgow, Edinburgh, big international cities as well. Okay, so... Yeah, ensure key non-departmental public bodies and arm's length bodies such as Homes England, Network Rail and National Highways have appropriate regard to relevant strategies and shared growth priorities. Yeah, fine, okay, so there's a little bit of a hint. Better data, use of data, fine. Data counts to integrate senior data leaders for blah, 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 right. Fixing the basics, ONS, refresh government's subnational data strategy. Okay, so this is statistics thing, evaluation. Yeah, okay, right. Powers, functions and funding, the framework. This is the key thing. Mayors free to set the priorities for funding that suit their areas the best. Okay. Priorities, but that's not numbers. Strategic authorities, leadership of their areas, growth, hardwire. Okay, whatever. Ease your commutes, because strategic authorities are better able to join up transport networks through faster bus franchising, join up transport. Funding, a statutory role for mayors in governing, managing, planning, and developing the rail network. Option for mayors to control local rail stations, but not tracks. Okay. And the right to request rail devolution for established mayoral strategic authorities. Okay, rail devolution. Okay, yeah, that's fine, fair. Okay. Housing, investment, local areas. Yeah, okay. Funding and investment. So this is the integrated settlement situation. This is the integrated settlements are central to delivering change. They'll become eligible for integrated settlement. I'm looking forward to them telling us what it is, which will commence the integrated. They'll commence at the following spend review, provided a sufficient preparation period has passed. The scope of integrated settlements will be confirmed at each spending review on the basis of functional responsibilities and their value by a formulaic process. Yeah, good, because that's basically population and some level of deprivation accounting. So it won't just be population, I imagine. Integrated settlements will have a single systematized approach to spending controls in a single streamlined overarching assurance and accountability framework coordinated by MHCLG. Okay. Still feels quite tied to central government, though. So consolidation, fine, agreed. Funding for new and existing institutions, okay, fine. So the funding, it's not really explicit about what... Okay, it's just... Because there's the city deals that have gone out, and yeah, it's... Yeah, I doesn't seem like there's a huge amount of clarity on the like not a huge amount of clarity on the amount of on the information about funding. I'm not okay. Okay, I'm wary of the funding. The lack of clarity about exactly what funding will be and how much power they will have and autonomy they'll have over it is worrying me a lot, actually. That feels like a gap. It feels like Treasury have got in on this and like, no, we still get full veto on everything. I don't know. What do you think in the chat? Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a little poll. Look, I'm going to gauge my audience. Let me just write a little question. So far, enough on funding autonomy? Question mark. Here we go. There we go. Start poll. There we go. So I've just asked a question in the chat for those who are watching this afterwards. So far, enough of funding autonomy? Question mark. And we're going to find out from all of you watching whether what you think. There's 100 of you watching, as per usual. About. So see what you think. Everyone's saying no. Oh, there's a bit of no, not no's. There's there's some not sures. Okay, so no one's saying there's definitely not. It's not a yes. No one said yes, but there's a bit of a half and half on no and not sure. So okay, that's no mention of being able to raise funds themselves like Crossrail did. Agree on that. Okay, let's talk about transport. The 3.3 transport local infrastructure. High quality transport infrastructure supports blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know. Transport funding. So, The integrated settlement will include local transport funding streams, including city regional transport, sustainable transport settlement funding. Oh my God, it still feels like lots of... For eligible authorities from the start of CRSTS2 in 27-28, this still feels like it's heavily controlled, I have to be honest with you. Foundation and mayoral strategic authorities will also have funding consolidation with greater consolidation, autonomy, flexibility places with the mayor. Places will be held accountable through a transport-specific accountability framework with proportionate outcomes, frameworks and metrics. Again, feels like quite strong central control. The government is committed to ensuring long-term financial sustainability for transport for London and will work to develop a plan for achieving this from 2026-27 onwards as part of the strategic spending review. Okay. That is... There's just not much there. There's nothing about granting additional autonomous powers to raise funds, for fundraising internally. I'm going to skip roads and go straight to rail. GBR, so BR2, because Great British Railways is a stupid name, I will maintain as much. So much redundancy. BR2 will put passengers and local communities back at the heart of the railways and protect their interests. Integrating the railways with other forms of transport to support seamless journeys for passengers. This will be underpinned by engagement with strategic authorities on how local rail ambitions can be reflected in the national rail planning process. Okay, that feels nebulous and complex. Building on the progress made with GM and West Midlands. Okay, statutory role for mayors in governing, managing, planning and developing the rail network. They'll have enough to do, but anyway. To further embed collaboration and bring decision-making as close as possible to local communities. Fine. We'll consult on this role ahead of the legislation required to establish BR2. We'll publish guidance outlining core components that each tier of strategic authority can expect. Greater reciprocal data sharing, including through the Rail Data Marketplace. We need to get rid of the Rail Data Marketplace. It's awful. It isn't open data. It's just, it's technically free data, but it is not open data. I hate the Rail Data Marketplace. It needs to be burned down. Open data is literally that. Open, without any sign up, any portal, anything. Open to access. I'm very angry about how, aligning this, okay. Yeah, the DFT open by default position, good, yes, and that should be where the rail data situation is. Anyway, if they meet transparent criteria, mayors will also be given the option for greater control over appropriate local stations. Okay, so they can capitalise on the opportunity for economic growth. So that would include branding, good. Accessibility and intermodal connectivity in and around stations, fine, although the railway ought to be doing that itself. The government will also work with strategic authorities to explore how the considerable land value potential in rail-owned land could drive regeneration, commercial and housing opportunities. Oh, that's a bit of a Okay, railway land is useful for doing railway stuff, so be wary of that. Given that we haven't got enough railway, we shouldn't be running to sell all the railway land we've got away. Recognising the successes of devolved rail models in London and Liverpool City region, established mayoral strategic authorities have a right to request further rail devolution up to full devolution of defined local services. Okay, that's services. We will publish guidance to establish a clear and transparent process for this. Infrastructure, though, because you've got to have tracks to run trains on. London shows how fully integrated multimodal ticketing. Okay, we've moved on from infrastructure. We moved to ticketing. To expand these types of systems across the country, BR2 will reform the rail ticketing system to make it simpler for passengers and drive inflation, whatever. This is particularly crucial where bus franchising is coming or is in place, and rail is often the missing piece. The government will work in close collaboration with mayoral strategic authorities to deliver these shared ambitions, building on existing pay-as-you-go rail pilots. Priority will be given to establish mayoral strategic authorities in city region. Okay. And we know that they're empowering. On the buses, we're going to jump through that because we know what they're doing on the buses. We're empowering that. Active Travel England have been fairly obliterated and doesn't seem to be ramping up again, but I hope that doesn't actually happen. So, there's some other stuff here. So there's some good stuff here. So devolution to all local transport authorities. This is good because, for example, the Secretary of State is no longer going to get to say yes or no to special event orders, dropped curbs, conversions of footpaths to cycle tracks, construction of cattle grids, as well as exploring further devolution of traffic enforcement powers. Don't explore it, immediately give it back to local authorities. Removing Secretary of State consent requirements will empower local leaders and speed up decision making. I fully agree, yeah. Yes, so it all seems... The simplification, sure, but it feels short of... I'm currently manually adjusting how much I'm scoring this and this document, because you remember we've only scored one document so far. Well, we're going to score another one. This is the devolution white paper, which we're going to score. I think they could be going further. Like they're saying all the right things, but they're really holding short. It feels like they're holding back quite substantially on some of this stuff. Benjamin Pine says it basically feels like 100 pages saying there will be slightly fewer pots of money. Yes. The Department for Transport does indeed approve cattle grids. Yes. You have to remember the UK is completely bonkers. We are a bonkers country. So local transport plan's fine. York is a good example of a city that has just never successfully pulled together a local plan. It's just always failed to, and I'm going to be doing my best this year to get into the habit of whipping them into shape by showing what the transport could look like in York. But watch this space. So we're going to skills. I'm going to whiz through this stuff. In fact, catch your eyes. That was quite slow, but I might go quite quick over the next bit. So if you're photosensitive, don't look at the screen. Housing, strategic planning. Yes, this is all good, important stuff, but I'm going to jump through it because of time and wanting to kind of look at some of the. So, So this is the. Okay, this is kind of the summary table of the devolution framework here that we've got. And so funding and investment, multi-department long-term integrated funding settlement. I'm still not clear on exactly what that integrated settlement is. Are we talking about you will have this much money a year, or even ideally over the next 5 years you will have this lump sum and you can do with it as you please? Is that... It doesn't look like that's what it is. Or even if it's not do with it as you please. It's, worth looking over the housing thing. To tell you what, I won't do that now because of time, Jack Elliott, but it's a good point. I mean, it might be worth doing in the Discord server is have a look over the housing pages. You can get the download. You can download. Tell you what, I should have put the download link in the description, shouldn't I? You can download this report and have a look through yourself. It's quite easy. Just search English devolution white paper. You'll find it quickly. Okay, so I am, I am wary of the lack of specific commitment to what that integrated settlement is. There was a section on it and they didn't actually say what it is. Nicker's saying, I think the integrated funding settlement is what money you have but must spend it on these strategies or similar. Thanks Jack for dropping Jack the Spanner dropping in the link there. It should really be that they get a pile of money that's locked in over a 5-year period. 5 years is not an unreasonable period to develop a plan. You get a locked in amount of money for 5 years, and by the end of that 5 years, if you can show that there's been value from, if you show you delivered on it, then you get the same again, if not more. It's not clear that that's what's happening. I'm wary of that. I'm really wary of that, and it's pulled the score down. I had a score for this, and I've actually pulled it down because it's less confident in that than I was hoping it would be. Actually, there's this, streamlining government. Okay, fine. So they're talking about tidying that up. Fine. I think we're getting to the end of it now. So how we will rebuild. So the funding reform. So it's just such small amounts of grant. We're talking such trivial amounts. I mean, remember, even just for transport, it's £5,000 per head. You're talking about multiple single, up to 10 billion quid for most cities outside of London in the UK is how much they're owed on transport. That's the scale we're talking about. That's the level of ambition we should be talking about, and I've certainly not seen that here. So micromanagement, fine. Yeah, this is the local government section, I think, isn't it? Yeah, so there's a bit of reorganisation, fine. I'm kind of going through this because, seeking views on like remotely attend formal council meetings. Yeah, fine, good stuff. Proxy voting, various bits of reform to local government, which I think is probably good. Upgrading systems, integrated settlement, single accountability framework. Again, it's not. Not clear what building capacity. Yes, they need to build capacity. So yeah, okay. Capacity funding. Okay, resource funding to strategic. So it's better to fund staff, basically, is what that's describing, and that's fair enough. Secondments between central government and strategic authority. Yep, that's fair enough. Mayoral and officer capacity to deliver. Okay, so they are acknowledging that challenge, which is fair enough. Yeah, okay. Letting mayors focus wholly on their region. Yeah. Delivering our plans. So, implementing agreed devolution deals and the priority program. Hull and East Yorkshire getting stuck in. Upgrading the powers of mayors, delivering the English devolution bill. They're saying that it's going to happen this first session, which would be good. Engage with the sector on details of our reforms. Okay, and then they've gone through kind of a long list of things they're going to do, which is fair enough. I'm going to go into tremendous detail on this, and a lot of it, I think it was very wishy-washy on rail, particularly on infrastructure. Given they said isn't TfL great, and then doesn't actually. This looks like the end. There we go. That is the end. So, what do we think on that? I have to say I'm. Oh, if you didn't want to hear that, that was very loud. Sorry about that. I actually put the volume down a bit on that already. So, what do you think on that? Let's see. To support the delivery of strategic infrastructure projects, mayors will have powers to raise a mayoral community infrastructure levy. Oh, that's good. It seems hidden away. It feels like that ought to be up front and centre from the housing section. Thanks, Jack Ellie, for picking that up. Philip Taylor's asking, how likely are they to get the projects through all the various entities that have a say on any project in 5 years? Well, quite. In theory, this streamlines some of that because the strategic authority will have it will be a single strong client and will drive that forwards. So at me, and if you've got questions, chuck them in now. I will chuck them over and I will scoop them up. Remember to at my name so I can pick up where there are questions. Master Sam is saying, to be fair, Network Rail are basically the only organisation equipped to do rail infrastructure work in this country. Basildon Station is a prime example of that currently. Yeah, but so is Oxford, and it's not going well there. So TfL are very capable, and indeed extremely capable, of running rail infrastructure. So they run overground, they run Crossrail, they run they run the underground. So they're absolutely capable of running rail infrastructure, and other devolved authorities could be too. And as I said, if you remember, there's that slide that I put up in the past about how that works. It's eventually you might get to a TfL situation where they have tracks, but the fact that it's not mentioned as an option, maybe it is, but it's felt as far off. But there doesn't feel like the ambition to deliver what. It doesn't feel like quite the level of ambition to deliver what London has for other cities, and that for me feels like a massive shortcoming. To be honest, that feels like a major shortcoming that's an error. Really, I'm surprised at this. Basically, I don't know. I'm anyway, right. So while I chew through that and think a bit more about that, let us get the Rail Matter rating up for this, shall we? It does. No, Michael, see, they do have a London Overground infrastructure of their own in places. Yeah, it's not network rail infrastructure. They do have it's not network rail infrastructure. It is TfL infrastructure in places. So, right, let's rate this then. What do you think? I think so. I've kind of been umming and ahhing over this one, and I'm reckoning that I'm going to give this one out of 5. I'm going to give this one. No, let me go over here. 3 Pandrel clips out of 5 is my thought. 3 Pandrel clips out of 5 because I would like to see more robustness on what that funding settlement looks like and what periods, and I don't think they seem to have hidden away the potential for revenue raising deep away rather than it being front and center as a thing, and it doesn't seem to be focused around infrastructure. It just seems to be hidden away it just seems hidden away. It's not front and center enough, and that makes me wary that they're not hugely eager for it to happen. Raphael thinks this is a bit much even. I would describe this as mid. There's a lot to be positive about. So I think it would be unfair to give this a 2.5. I think this is a 3. I nearly gave it a 3.5 actually. It was nearly a 3.5, and I ummed on a 4, but then I dropped it back to 3.5. But actually, I'm not so happy. Now I've gone through it with you all. I'm not so happy about that lack of funding information in there. 3 out of 5 is not bad. That's they should be happy with that. But I think there's a little more to be done, and it might be that I change my view on the overall policy as it develops, and if there's more to be said on it. But I'm a bit jury's out on it. But that is it. That's three Pandal clips. Others are on 2.5. Let's see. So the results of that poll, which I'm going to end now, are pretty much exactly 50-50 on not enough information versus not sure about it. So I'm going to go with that supports my not enough information on the clarity on funding autonomy, and that funding autonomy is really, really important. They need to not have to constantly be saying yes sir, please sir to central government, and until we shake that free of that, we're kind of not getting where we need to be. I'm going to go through what other questions are there. Let's have a look. Nucker, do you have any thoughts on how devolution should centre around smaller cities, 200 or even 100,000? Local government reorganisation is said to be at least 500,000 population by this government. Yeah. I don't have strong views on it. It's often that cities and towns, or towns that size, smaller cities that size, work best when they actually collaborate with other cities of that size in a local cluster. There aren't many cities that size that are out on their own, miles away from anywhere else, and the ones that are the focus for that lower level of local government. No strong views on it really. I know people might think that I focus a lot on cities and I focus excessively on cities, but cities are where public transport works best, and therefore where the funding is best deployed. Rural and semi-rural and even semi-urban areas are trickier, for one thing. But also there's just less population density, so it's kind of less critical to get. It's less critical to get those big ticket, high finance options right. Actually, the stuff for rural areas is less about massive funding, and it's more about getting some of those ancillary services right, particularly in terms of social care and local transport, and getting local transport right. But it's, for me, cities are important. I think the key thing for me on devolution is that I want the big cities in the UK, of which there are several million plus cities, a large number of large cities, large conurbations that should have London level powers and don't. And that for me is the key thing that we achieve. The secondary stuff, the other areas, it's less critical for the success of the UK that those get the powers. Let's take York as an example of a city that's about 200,000 people. So much more to be done, but a lot of it could be done. Okay, funding would be great, but a lot of stuff there's a lot that York could get right without necessarily having many more powers. Actually, it's just that we have extremely inept and under-resourced council with no vision whatsoever, and very poorly informed highways officers. So there's or transport officers, if we could call them such a thing. They're not; they're just highways officers. But there's a lot more to be. That's a challenge, but it's not a challenge that necessarily requires massive, even funding. Although funding would obviously be great, but the big cities are where there needs to be massive change and huge amounts of extra funding. In Love with Cities is saying, local government here in Germany often leads to situations where transport, etc., stops at the border. Yeah. But I think I'd prefer that than nothing, which is what is the case in almost all cities outside of London in the UK. Let's see. So Michael C is saying, as I said earlier, it just seems very vague, so that government treasury can shape it in their image depending on what they want. Yeah, I'd agree with that, Michael C. Yeah. Gareth is thinking 2 out of 5. Actually, people are being more. Look at this. People are being more. Often, I'm the skeptical, the cynical, and skeptical. But actually, people are. You folk are being more skeptical on the numbers than I am here. Right. Okay. Let's roll into the end of the episode. So, as ever, available on all good podcasting platforms. Thanks for listening in audio-only format. The usual plugs, patreon.com/GarethFinch. Thank you so much. There are so many new patrons. I need to go in and update the credits again. I think the credits are like a couple of weeks out of date now. I'll try and update for next week. There's so many of you, and you have absolutely made this work for me. I will be telling you when I am fully salaried, which is not yet. The contracts are still not fully signed on the job, which I teased out last week. I'm still not telling you about it because I will formally announce when the job is actually a thing via a couple of statements. But the Patreon folk, I will be explicitly clear so that if you're supporting me to help with the fact that I don't have a salary, it will be absolutely okay for you to wind back your support. I would love you to keep supporting me because it allows me to do more, justify doing more stuff and take more time off day job to do this fun. But but I will make it absolutely. I will not be upset. I certainly won't think, oh God, what have I done? If when I make that announcement, my Patreon income drops a little bit, I will be absolutely okay with that. So don't anyone feel any pressure to keep that up at the point when I announce that. At the moment, it's incredibly helpful. It's just helping us keep our heads above water. It honestly, it's just been wonderful. But I will give you all, and I hope that's okay. I hope I'm not devaluing anything in any way by saying that. I just want to be absolutely clear that I'll be explicit when I have a job again. I have salary rolling in again. And so if you want, if you're supporting me, if you've dropped in as a paid patron, or ramped up your support, for example, if those of you who've kind of increased the amount you spend, give me a month, it would be quite, just want to make sure you have that opportunity to go in and times are tight. You have that opportunity to go in and drop the amount you support according to your means. I hope that's okay. But it's a massive thanks to those of you who've really ramped up that support or joined as new patrons to keep me avoid the bank balance reducing too quickly. It's been very, very helpful indeed. GarethFinch.co.uk/merch. Oh golly, I owe conversations, and last year was just a write-off. One of the fun things I did on Tuesday, that was yesterday, was delete everything in my Gmail. Absolutely everything. I didn't. I dragged it all to a bin folder, and I tried to go back through and make sure I picked up anything that I'd missed. But I will. Will be. I started from fresh, and that should help me be a bit more on it with everything, including the little bag of deliveries that I have down behind me that I'm sure those of you know what I'm referring to. It might just be that I might find it easier because the post thing is they're funny sizes, and I'd say it might just be that I get a train to all of you and give you in person. Who knows? That might genuinely be the way that I organise it. Actually, anyway, right. So maybe that is what I'll do. Actually, inbox 0. Yeah, just absolutely zeroed it. It's funny. It's now got about 60 emails in it, but I'm going to go back through those and thin it out. Raphael spotted errors, typos in the book. Raphael, you can email me them if you like. The chances are I spotted them when I did the audiobook because I have a very dog-eared copy of my book which has all of the errors, which there might be a second edition, rather than a second print, but a second edition later this year, or in advance of Christmas next year, in fact, to give it a bit of a boost for Christmas next year. I want it to be on shelves at Christmas next year. Having been a bestseller, I think it might have a good run on that. But by that point, I want to make sure I've caught all. I'll go through it and make sure it's still fully up to date and that I've caught any of those errors and anything like that. PayPal.me/Gareth. We'll talk about the book in a second. PayPal.me/Gareth Dennis. For Loose Change and Abuse, and the chat. Everyone in the chat, hello. There's already discussion on this going on in the Discord server. GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord. Christmas next year. That's right, Raphael. Yeah. So let me go this way because the book, yes, it's still doing wonderfully. Still selling about 300 copies in bookshops a week. So not just online, but in bookshops, it's between 200 and 300 copies a week going out, which is just tremendous. Let alone, and that's with all the nonsense about there being a supply. There is now a supply. Amazon should be all right. As someone mentioned earlier, there's some Amazon suppliers. No, that should all be fixed. The book is there have been some supply issues because The distributor has been hopeless. It's just been a real mess. They've just not understood what they have. They didn't understand that this was going to be a successful book. Yeah, very disappointing. But it has been bought in tremendous... It's still a bestseller on... it's selling... God, how many of these things have I sold now? 3,000-4,000 of them. It's still selling tremendously well. So please, lots of you will have bought it by now. I think very few of you watching and listening to this won't have already bought it. But it's sold loads. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon on multiple categories. So it's doing extremely well. Ruben, I'm so glad you've been enjoying my W2RP co-hosting. It's been a delight and a joy. I need to send some copies to people. I think I will be. My local library is going to get one that I need to send to, and I definitely need to drop one to the new Secretary of State as well. The Royal Minister, no, I don't think I'll be sending the Royal Minister a copy, although any of you are welcome to buy one and send it over. Yeah. So, How the Royals Will Fix the Future, available in all good bookshops, mostly. To continue pestering Waterstones about it. Waterstones themselves have also been useless on this. Like they've been going, oh, it's not in a warehouse. Well, guys, go and chase it up and get it on your bloody warehouse, you fools. So anyway, book. W2RP, of course, I am still co-hosting and loving it. I guess, actually, I'm recording tonight and I will speak to the folks about what the plan is, because by the end of this month I'll be salaried and we all want it to go back to normal, right? I've loved being a co-host and I don't want to stop in many ways because it's just a delight and I just meet up with my friends and we laugh about things. My fireworks episode was a bit rubbish, but only it was supposed to be a bit rubbish. It was the end of year quick. It was like, oh shit, we're not going to get a bonus ready. We need to have something bonusy set up. So let's do something silly. So it's a very silly episode. So if you're a patron subscriber to W2RP, you get the fireworks, the open episode, open fireworks fun. What happens next, I don't know exactly, but I'm speaking to them tonight. I'll find out and I'll let you all know. What else? Now, a series that I've not been doing much with. Here it is. Amphitros. The Archipelago series. It's not gone away, don't worry. I've just been... the end of last year was just too much, really. There's just so much going on. I just couldn't keep on top of things. But I want to reassure you that some of the behind-the-scenes stuff I've been pressing on with as forms of relaxation and stress relief. And... yeah, so there's the new. Firstly, the new map is going to be coming soon, so as in the new navigable map that allows you to see what's going on, and it will be basically up to date as well. It will have the majority of actual things that have happened on the map recently, So you can I will be, if you're on the Discord server, I will probably send you this draft version. It's not quite done yet. There's a few things to finish, the new divisional and subdivisional borders and things. If you have no idea what I'm talking about and what on earth this fetching looking map on screen is, then what can I say? I can't help you. Go and catch up with the Archipelago series. It's good fun. But no, we'll be resuming soon. Once I work out what the hell's going on with my work timetable and with nights and such and such and such, we'll be getting back to this. I think what's going to happen is there'll be a series of like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 patron-only episodes where we'll kind of dig in and do some fiddly admin stuff in the save game in advance of cracking on. But no, it's all working nicely, and also the episodes work again like they used to, where I can flick between lore and an episode and building things. So yeah, and there's so much fun stuff planned ahead. Honestly, there's a delight, and also, yeah, as you can see by the complexity of this map that we're looking at, there's so much on the map. It's just so busy. There's so much going on. There's just such... it's just so much. There's so much. It's tremendous fun. I'm really enjoying it. There's by the time we get to the 2010s, 2020s, there's just going to be... It's just going to be a busy map, and that is going to be so much fun for the stuff that we might decide we want to do at that point. Anyway, next week... I didn't change what was going to be next week. Okay, so... firstly, I'm going to just very quickly go episode 247 and then just do question, and because I can't exactly remember what my plans were for what I was going to do. Tell you what, let's very quickly fire in and just double check in case I did have a plan. No, let's go in here and go down here and have a look down here. Episode 2, there we go. Right, so Devo White Paper. No, there's a big blank spot for the 15th. I suspect Oh, did I? Let's see. Watch this space. It might be. I think it's going to be a news episode. I think it is going to be a news episode next week because there's a lot of news to catch up on. So 247 might end up being a bit of a news episode, I think. But there are quite a few things coming up that I need to book in. Things that I didn't manage to get booked in for the end of last year because I'm useless. There's a few fun things happening. More episodes of 247 is going to be the currency episode of Gareth. Yep. Okay. Good idea. A few good bits of. A few things I want to update people on and chat about. I think that'd be good, but also lots of other things, appearances on podcasts and other podcasts, and some very cool podcasts that I love that I'm going to be guesting on coming up soon, which will be great. So next week, news, I believe, 24/7 episode, 24/7. Oh yeah, 24/7 news. Yeah, it's news. Anyway, right, enough of all that rubbish. Let me get my big face up so I can say a cheerio to you all. That's been a delight. I think we've covered. Okay, I did a bit of waffling at the end there, but I think we covered that white paper reasonably well. It's not bad. I'd be happy with more funding powers, and I will see you all next week, everyone. Cheerio.